rockets, red glare, aliens bursting in midair. That must mean only one thing, the 4th of July holiday. If you're a child of the 90s, or just someone who happens to be into quiche cinema, perhaps you're engaged in the tradition of the annual Independence Day viewing of the classic Roland Emmerich disaster film, Independence Day. Ah, who can forget the big budget goodness of an alien invasion that explodes the White House and other recognizable landmarks across the world? How about Will Smith in the fly-by-the-seat of his pants Air Force pilot Captain Steve Hiller, Jeff Goldblum in the nerdy, forward-thinking computer genius David Levinson, or the undeniably iconic Bill Pullman as President Thomas Whitmore? What a president, huh guys? Well, this year I decided to do away with the tradition and take a walk on the wild side. So I took a dive into the streaming services to hopefully come up with a suitable substitute that would evoke in me the same pride and patriotism that the sacrifice of Randy Quaid's Russell Case did.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
So where did my deep digging get me? Independent's Day. Released in 2016 to more than certainly coincide with the long-awaited sequel to ID4, and distributed by none other than The Asylum. The studio known for such high-quality original releases such as Snakes on a Train, Transmorphers, The Day the Earth Stopped, and of course, the scabies of film culture, Sharknado. And its multiple sequels. Now I'll concede Sharknado as a concept is actually a fairly original farce, and that will be the only positive thing I will ever say about that film. Ever. As far as the rest of the Asylum catalog, there is a pattern which I'm sure you've probably picked up on. The Asylum has a renowned for releasing what most have come to be called the mockbuster. Also, renowned as a word is probably giving them way too much credit. The Asylum has a reputation, and if you've ever had the misfortune of watching one of their films, you know what that reputation is. They are not particularly good, like in any way. Much like the film in which this particular one was inspired by, Independents'Day begins with an alien invasion of Earth. Not nearly as naturally paced as its big budget counterpart, Independents'Day gets straight to the point. ID4 did however have 145 minutes to work with to develop things like, character and story. Thankfully, Independents'Day clocks in at around 90-something minutes. All the same, it's a pretty tedious 90 minutes. After the obvious alien invasion has been established, the White House is destroyed along with the president, executive power thus transferring to his vice president, Rainey, played by Faye Gauthier. Very progressive, I like that. The majority of the narrative for the film revolves around her, which is I also actually kind of do like. At which point the alien invaders communicate to the population of Earth, delivering to them an extraterrestrial eviction. They explain that the human race is so warmongering and destructive, and that they are to evacuate the planet immediately. Nothing new out of the ordinary here. They're even kind enough to help them evacuate aboard their transport ships. If they don't evacuate after the established time, they will begin mass extermination of the planet's inhabitants. It is eventually discovered the aliens' plans are far more nefarious than they originally were. More nefarious than total destruction of the Earth. And so now it's up to the new president and her small cabinet, along with some help from the local gun-crazy militia, to stop the aliens from jettisoning the Earth's population out into space. Taking out the garbage, as it's so eloquently put in the film. It's hard to really get into a lot of detail about motive and intention of the film's protagonist and, forget about subtext. There just isn't a lot of stuff present here. And while you could probably make an argument that it shares a lot of the same ideology of the original film, that, we as Americans and ultimately humans, when we're united, we can overcome any global challenge as significant as, alien invasion, or, maybe a pandemic, or like global warming. Some wishful thinking there. There is something far more interesting at play with this film and with the films of The Asylum. Of course, you knew I was going to get film school on this. A lot of their films are designed around very obvious imitation. That's the idea, isn't it? The mockbuster. in essence, is a poor replication of the source. While Oscar Wilde's famous quote states that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, is flattery really the intention here? The Asylum mockbuster is made with minimal budget. Rarely are there any recognizable figures associated with the flicks, and wide theatrical release is almost never the intention. When you watch an Asylum film, something else becomes very obvious. The films are very much designed to be bad. Independents'Day is a bad movie. I took no enjoyment whatsoever watching this film. It did leave me puzzled. Where does a film like this belong in the overall discussion of art and film culture? What is its place? The mockbuster is an intentional subversion of an industry where the value of a film is tied to big budget and blockbuster attendance numbers. These films imitate the original films by shining a light on vapid and contrived Hollywood moneymakers, and in a seemingly contradictory fashion, they also uplift the Hollywood counterparts and bring a spotlight to what really makes blockbusters like ID4 an enjoyable thing to watch: the execution by talented film artists, directors, writers, and wonderful actors. The stories are the same: alien invasion, White House getting blown up, White House getting blown up. The quality, however, you get what you pay for. Don't get me wrong though, I wouldn't wish this film on anyone. If this was the film that they had jettisoned off into the pod so that extraterrestrials could get to know us, we would no doubtly be vaporized on the spot. So the next time you and your people are itching for a new film to watch at your next get-together, shell out some of the small cash needed to rent a decent film. After all, the only thing worse than committing a loved one to an asylum is watching an asylum film with them. I've been Michael J Migliore, your man of film. Thank you for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and please keep an eye out on the channel and my blog for content coming up in the next few weeks. In the meantime, please take care of yourselves.